United federal government suspends domestic trademark by any non-use and badly contending against cybersquatting users is cybersquatting all forms of rolling trademark protection is a necessity for the most recent evidence of code in Cast 25 digital lands policy evolving substitution of cybersquatting registered domain names as well as identical biggest as trademark number present species of AI making a lot easier to allow there's a large number of domains allowed for rapid such as and other malicious like 50 different species of traffic types and public certain level studies like various restrictions of fishing and the BEC back and forth papers and related to the comprehensive service and necessary for activity and then comprehensive rescue strategy. The ACBA has found self and display the current legal possessions are inconsistent increased consumer confusion and hurt trademark owners have trouble for the essence of the non-use factors indicating bad things of course of ignoring once not having the bad things and resort not even though they're doing things and use like of emphasis on the ACBA and extortion or ordinary and naturally diverted from the reasoning increased confusion and increased cost. The main ultimately make an ACBA or not than either bad things or into a reader registration inquiry other than the business opportunity and accomplishment of use for market block the confusion if you're a resolution or from online computer use domain is ownership or to really gather with sports and off your various neighborhoods and advertising service. Swatting the internal link to the laundry list of malicious usages tendency 28 malicious usages vessel that is swatting to make it the most work this like the goods get the leading swatting to make all malicious and particularly new return to the sales services information including email and ATM things that use to malware such as completely digital the site urban information other information data infiltration the UBO that choose to default into the high value about the view insert out signals of purpose of engineering essentially so that we work camera domain hacking emails and marketing services redirected to basing what is fear phishing logic. Fishing guts are growing and compromised defense demand overcomes defense as econ 25% fishing at 40% of users since 2022 email attempts about 30% because of remote work and the lines of digital communication 94% of malware delivered via email critical sector link website and compromise system information and jeopardize national security phishing and emails go over 85% of users involve human error phishing exploit human psychology using urgent language or government and agency bypass automatic defense to integrate malicious so much as and those moving accurate people and business people are not really engaged in something over the phone rather than infiltration on infrastructure threats and your system and causing existential miscalculation action 20 able to be unique forces and that their system created from inner explosion resulting from military operation knowledge and duty escalator which would lead to safety of nuclear weapons and preemptive attempts and never extremely effective and malware and implemented from mind systems of the human knowledge during an excellent predator and sensitive nuclear system as attribute wanted and affecting access from others and the intended as state concerned about the nuclear system valued under cyber protect planted and interpret and be used in the worst likely possible to generate significant escalation scenarios use terrorists use cyber spotting strategies to access their target's information. Have you noted cyber terrorism uses this attacks and another system engineering strategies that convention reach the target. That on terror operation prevent 15 that terrorists that explain that lack status security, social engineering and technology my life that there is money, but I could be dead in these numbers of terrorism and this and then funded in terrorists to obtain all aspects of counter privacy, terminating the use of terrorist activities of getting access to critical which would do something identity terrorism, cause extinction, risk for continually increasing. However, accurate video is a leverage capability to bring access and external infiltrate the CP says the police system also within arsenal and ability to use it together next year. Technical specialization of all the different things that the ability to ability to hack actors like you do the increasing there's never the turn to trigger you and trying to really the emergency launch actors that obtain inside open digital storage to never introduce of all active lines of also to keep it to read radiation to become like a weapon precipitate the war independent scams cause extinction even 20 scammers and incentivized bad actors to take more drastic measures than hard to account for the bad and also and the national security and they can over the right state elections no longer think will take over that kind of leader and simply go his real work has to fraud our world putting in the balance. Scenario 3 Southeast Asia rising cyber spotting scene scams against EU citizens are eroding against stability in Southeast Asia party the area for conflict for 2024 US citizens of Southeast Asia outstanding Americans use studying for building origin in Southeast Asia 20 the top under the financial crimes that use the democracy with the alliance of East Asia money and with the pocket for corrupt law but Europe is a law enforcement directly influence national and regional politics eroding democracy and money law enforcement cyber scamming going to criminal and artificial money about finance policies, military junta, and the regime which implemented crimes against humanity war crimes. That's been 2006. Countries already on edge. 60 that the state is border the country of potential region that implements the state creating for role of security laws, town for regions, standard of the building. First, become more offensive, but rising deaths and similar reason I VC of the new month as air crime characters, the other end of passive some country to escalation and develop air, naval forces destroy the Hurricane Islands and the attack that comes to the American areas of fragility, Japanese takes into vulnerable new areas of arms race possible, nuclear conflicts as a future countries that the new war for in a just near 5 days data breaches, putting as a hearts the leading cause of healthcare data breaches and have doubled in the last 4 years. I'll just compare. Because you get the healthcare data breaches and increasing the double sense of money to users and over emails and practical evidence are seen for digital allowing actors to access the use malware delivery creating access for delivery and the side of the malware nation implication for the health organization cost fishing as access to proper coverage cost 14 million in place of lose 65,000 minutes 340 hours the results in a million of records as only and helping creating compromise a laundry list of that and have less cost for the ministry or putting by the beach of healthcare organization cover this medication privacy that's the trusted man of the beach is the target and everybody works service and being account even after the payment is trusting to do so that their workers cost over 1 billion. They operation disruption legal fees and recovery of pharmacy, contributed to sword lawsuits, a range of maintenance, the recovery expenses of legal collective damage, repetition damage, the loss, the business, the data, the competence of BI, medical records, insurance, usual financial, the conflict, information, long-term consequences. That lasts years healthcare bathroom, 21 healthcare, the regulation from cyber threats, and the other industry credible tests, matter for detecting and dramatic communities and friends, there's murder shut down, the computers and medical roads, pharmacy club, influence of the divergence of surgery, of the positions of the confidentially medical information of your data breaches of the police security data, changing all the laboratory values, go on for example from the financial breaches of data, unmentioned of the very over the area of the period. 95% of security breaches, unintentional actions, and not malware affected, attempting to professional working from home, talent, information, application hackers, or whatever, hospital network, helping cause causes disease to spread, and 70 years of the battle to protect the other survivors, disease that are turned by the big god, so needed to protect ourselves and other victims, mental health, and loss protection, it exists spread and evangelical reference of the type of and the threats of the Lord. Disease causes extinction rate. 21 cells, 10 of the part of your affected hermatic register particularly immediately incorporated, you know, say long pathogenic nitrogen rate, foreign because the doses and giving a response to the fertility, systems are like radiological effects of the virus and the pathogens and humanity, exactly good. The ACP is the most effective solution to cybersonic common program to working the most effective resolution is humanity ACP credit for the world registration should be defined as re-registration for shooter priorities non-use as a factor in demonstrating liability and that means that non-use to confirm the bad intended rapid and non-use to the recipients of the means used in the media to second for the registration and the constitution on the ACPA without an intervention from pharmacy ACP and will be user return. ACP business did it private. People terminated on the use of the personal level of the benefit of the nation of the health level of the court. You will have a certain average of the simple vigilant. The other man is the circuit of the potential liability of personal property records and the public registration that is the protection from the team of a resident of the bigger method of the deliveries of being studies again. I will endorse and profit that we have only removing your determination that ACP saw cybersonic people so the like the legal police as a industry to propagate the response with the ACP which determines plus of religion so it's not something in regular license and camera also built into the ACP against on I would never been under the department of the future server a lot of given culture of data links over the actual whatever data is target that occasionally running below the take on the person gives it is not reducing the education of the increasing your harmony internet commerce and unity partner interpreting registration necessary for the purpose of ACP but then 18 if you're not included in 50 and ACP really not as well and all the exact period commerce with some department and the definition of the cost of actions but the registration will not follow since the ACP commerce and then the security abuse of assets or the nothing I can revisit the different get the last performance doesn't give it future decision that the actual person that happens in the good possible. What is it? I don't know the other reason for the different thing that starts with whenever I need for all the tendency to provide for the analysis and value of the data. And I can the emergency becoming something if I have an obviously I don't know if you can just nothing. But it's really taking up the all the time to a lot more. You really have to reason about the things so they can design and all the other that you service you need to cover the other something what is also from here from your reason for accepting on the security so you're going to do it if it's an answer 30 sides.
I think we start process.
Sure.
Cyber spotting, like, is basically an umbrella term for things like phishing, which is like basically like our online scams where people use similar or identical like trademarks or domain names, like your trademark domain names in order to like attract clicks. And
Is it just domain names?
it's not just domain names, it can also be like through emails, etc. I even
Okay, but if I'm correct, the app only affects trademarks or domain names. How does it stop things like phishing emails?
We would also apply to emails, so like the emails and like, so email addresses, if it was like Zayn Damani at like Zayn Damani with like 2 eyes, and prevent registration of that.
Yeah, because the trademark domain names would, like, Google is trademarked, if you add 2 eyes to it, that would still apply to it.
Okay, sure. What is? Okay, how does the app solve all ID theft? There are things like mail theft, stealing wallets, purses, etc.
Sure.
How does it prevent ID theft?
I think you're talking about the terrorist scenario, the purpose evidence is pretty clear that by using, like, it's like, terrorists right now are exploiting lax data security in order to steal people's identifications or SSS numbers that they're like putting in online websites. Like, for example, when you put in your credit card credentials and like when you're using online banking, you're also putting your ID, so they're doing it via.
I guess that's one internal link. I'm asking about other ways that they.
That's the only internal link that we solve. We think that funds the majority of terror operations, and Rivet is exclusively about terrorists exploiting like online.
Wait, it says terrorists are exploiting that, not that like cyber spying or cyber domains are the main source of ID theft.
Right, we're thinking that they're going on to the, like,
Your argument is that like terrorists are just gonna like pick my pocket to steal my information, like that's not intuitive.
Okay, it's not just that. That's fine. What branch is normal means for the plan?
United States Northern Ireland.
What
If
does normal
you,
mean?
for the purpose of your politics DAs, you get links to Congress, but if you read an agent counter plan, you will permit it.
Okay, scams cause extinction. What's the scenario for the extinction?
These cyber spotting are secret scams that goes into extinction. If someone like Biden or the president, you get the like entire like Twitter is gets hacked, that can obviously escalate conflict.
Which you think if someone puts, or if the president posts something on Twitter, that's gonna cause like China to strike us?
Well, it's not just Twitter, it's just about like the White House security just as a whole. Obviously, if like the Trump's Twitter account isn't protected, why would his other like other like things where he needs like that hold sensitive information would be protected as well. Like the president has.
Twitter is also pretty large, like he's just throwing out their policies on Twitter, people responding, countries responding.
Yeah, and that changes policies in
That's not
other
about
countries,
others.
so that
That's
proves our
fine.
argument.
One is the Senate orders 5, then get them. No. Great. First off, the advantage of the United States Federal Reserve Fund, the NMW watching service, and tribute to every treatment holder and educate all army employees, and the CIA stands for awareness to prevent clarification attempts and reassume the UTR policy and declare mutual vulnerability Australian cyberspace, and with the customary international focus spending, non-use of vaccines intended against cyber starting point once off the entire first advantage, there are so the applicants and applicants the panel in 01 complaint, and so 25.2 solves the fair scenario, there are evidence that the army education solves on the belief that's no better, when the applicants proactive protection in 01 when the account 24.3 results humanitarian rights by line, with one Canadian domestic rights for registration of the assault returning conflict with human rights insert now, last exploration out lots of self execution route. Government to consumer research and world consideration, on the use of other systems and behavior which never refers to it, that is a research structure not launched never attacks out of here. It's not just the Cali 2016 US, government against Russia for not 100% for Russia comes to US industry, the adoption of this research can turn out, that is not zero vulnerability and equals that 30 hours to run out one, if they do this understanding as the balance of but given the management seal out of cyber attack which doesn't exist now that great first recognition with Russia and China jobs to do. Cooperations with the defensive of the balance, doesn't understanding the US take out of the Chinese, access to the grid, Russian under services to access to Chinese, policy when the communication believes, believe the strength of China may enter with them, these siblings, the target percent, mutual way, you know, targeting globally, the US can no longer play, us the world from China, but interpret, that's really destructive operation, the escalate, declaration to Seattle for everybody, without taking a response, general, see more of the sensor, Russian access to record 16 with Seattle, that's obligation question whether international obligation for us will consider general, but every situation, what the whole government deputy information will be free from the text of reaction, realistically, the course to that risk is slightly in order, the government state based on social, coalition which is international structure giving all that, which is establishing for the global prosperity, capturing and finance terror, sourcing and economic reducing studies, a best strength global solution, next option, the scale of the exploration, one that only path to security requires apply, towards the public societies, non use of bad faith, they tend against cybersecurity, now it's just super active for the against cybersecurity, trademarks installed to apply to the state option, restriction flexible IPR law, the worst business that the fee only be applied, and that's the really effective result without what actually shares what. Good results about guys, government flexibility of something was the question good. However, it's choose reliability, and choose will distribute fair fish, there's always that too. I don't be over the ability basis versus the exam. It's much as rules to kind of reliability, so much balance and which access to regular. Have that very non important as the correct doctrine is the other doctrines and then comes. Actually, we're remembering disaster crisis against that. Sure, the new level was like roller check out. Well, constantly charged, not just like manual litigants and important doctrine of the law. The other doctrines again, like in quarter 8, the statute and no doctrine of Christian, Christian, 7, expanding courses in various press, marching back up in our nation, extinction today. So also have over to when that's access this level on. So about money that's from our secondary courses and research to them. Source of where research work is supposed to be a lot more of the trends which are but if any causes these for mental health today for still less right now. Whatever you cover was to but allow us to go for the weeks to give us 7-year-olds come back with the good education vaccination next campaign on each session. Sometimes for release the entry new laws campus 14. Obviously was also then go release the rest of the store. Charlie Fair release the danger salvage will base on what should probably so weeks head behind. Take over making this under should come as for us to law. And I think over the curiosity and so over the better be a several don't invest in a lot of culture. I got this gospel stating systemic communication directly makes it to me. The rich person in whoever happens to run quarrel which call it. We have action for the over a little minority we need. Also to do us to run something I can't say safe and miracle capitalist being as help. And I should put the warrants to both have personal reasons and research based on market spreading and space. You lost the question because it is used to say other people travel on the law from the military college please. You the rock and so several wars system any time like secretary Charlie College. There's a war house have about make for United Revolution against capitalist abuse to thee. Now just having to come disaster watch right there. It's really cautious to story to generation that's going away. Obviously, was emergency in a little specific where you comments should go up. Let's see the understand that MBA on this there. Reach those contract which is actually the source lines. Now restrain the lowest of the Canadian Revolution 9 on the course she can be fatal. Guarding Talos me and what position can find stuff. Not like the master of the world where she can to on Station Revolution. Most common the laws support a pretty cap. Often workstation we started with an understanding what companies and such result. Reach she cap revolution probably where she got it. Must quality of government systems very well as best emergency next up. It's a premature that the US perversion of a divided by policy that reveals terrorist implemented with the last 100 days and forfeiture where she has a version brew and force which is interferes with the operation that so the truthless of the current doctrine again. Increase the new sheets for 15 treatment hall. Politician can put some like a neutral for not even the city project to law, but people in the hospital, you should pressure increase trust with you should pressure research to large program to trust for hours to pressure acceleration also the excess progression presents and then the project that significant progressions within the market. So this is the first location ways to do it. So this is the kind of shows the language to the litigation settings about also takes the time to because the threat is trying to age over the and the program much to is small business high house value with more. Solvents can be different shape of fair God. Body solvents is called by 9.9 themselves with the world economic solution that the race for the war economic straight to lots of teaching or 16. What else is the reference to control use time never rock up. The controversy with the village response to body and the participation to trying to rush for water part of the village English couple of capital from me mid social government use which situation goes. It's about that without the gas gas of course the sense gas for treasury should be said on use the rapid against summer 20 after TCA you should find out. But it's for the war. Judgment department see only 10%. We have the $2 to competition so say the war for small rest more studies you take privacy more effective techniques from our part 1. We got to start to work for the that's all for the work this is for innovation it's an innovation challenge to cause spend for the see lobby it's actually a first which is time to that's the innovation see who is our expression this is going to be an offer version like this where the innovation got me into comments policy innovation as a solution we can for give us that coverage we'll see about this group and when on relation after all now this is actually group is today solving our coverage we should spend time studying whether we'll find out whether you should give out finish good set over when we research more about our lobby I just remember obviously something relevant they can get into specialization I just request us to bring step. Can also make a long saving that other parts of our neighborhood to come out. Companies on the market. Companies that before we can selling direct all over there. The rest of them think these should be the one having this renewable system of the music. Election where the handle will be a regular business information about individualized customer power about question the arts the same. But you got the over the last person will pick it up. Safety about what to do. The challenge is situation here, and it will last more like have before. It's not going to follow your personalization. This is a bracket is fixed like purpose of shedding up these calendar process. Poverty was very little agreement. However, friends college equality of power. Yeah, actually the biology for sex change. Yeah, it's no the well. Very thoughts about stage and reach stage of the first dimension with very structure very potential. Okay, one of the congratulations good point. I just like to give this conservation study by you. Here will issue with the one who is to college was like for them to international coaching of I was expecting for us to produce people how she ever next question. Okay, there is a little bit of assets. I could control by the is trying to be, so what much because they're open up, only with the sign of engagement, conflict. Also, terrorism is incoherent, trademark stands for any demonstrated corrections of the domain, doesn't restrict terrorist access by keys and their social security, is that security which don't cost terrorists get funding from cannabis drugs, but trying to get details, security system, no work, that doesn't matter, that's no like 18 to make to run the Netherlands to be security, once you get terrorists get involved with the terrorists are, or terrorists in the organized self, and free deal and free out, you wish really, others little civil terrorism, because the first security measures we can select it before, but terrorists on the terrorists don't exist, there isn't a threat, now, scam, cross like zero, this scenario, there's absolutely zero inch point, you get, it's a Twitter classing of the world, and that's only one example about how there was a lack of hack the Twitter system, scams itself, ridiculous, never reached far from extinction, and it says that every class of water social media, every class scams, which don't cause extinction, but they can't solve all scams, terrorism, defense, that's right, no, they have that's it, come on, social media doesn't like people to exist, every single doesn't, no much social media, we should generate, even generate, we don't, I see God, but also we see, graduate different stuff, believe in what, but people are actually, oh, 50% bring on to the opposite action, people use this, also Trump thumbs it, the plan cannot solve disease in every part of the country, it's not, extension for training, first pilot will uncle with the finale, which is the outside Africa, unlikely death in 90% resulting, vaccine one things unlikely, consider pathogen, and your war pathogen will have a long incubation time, such risk and effects survive, and one temperature, dangerous to arrange exchange, pathogen impairs which cause any quality, is recorded, no God, terror, bird, United States, what? I'll read this. Okay. Which one? No extra war being 28 shot. It's based on cost of high energy geography and a new spread defensive advantage exchange. It's not creating and representing copies more nimble. Other base for conversation, increase number of more reduce the rocks. It's also not. Anything else? Okay. Good. Yeah. Would you like to? Yeah.
I had trouble flowing. As far as all the updates, so you got to everything,
Yes.
including the court's kind of plan on how to push it.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, first is the advantage time plan. What does it mean to screen, feed, and watch?
Like the government would make it accessible to trademark holders who are voicing against those unrelated terrorist websites.
How do you solve adoption?
How do we solve adoption? You would make the service available.
This is a private software. How do you solve from the private sector? How does the government take that?
So
Your
so
government text doesn't justify that.
so we would fund watching services for businesses, we would pay businesses.
That's not what it says. It says fund the NN watch with a specific like technology from the private sector.
And worst case
Are
scenario,
you stealing, is the government stealing the NN?
no, the government would buy whatever assets or videos are necessary and they would stream it public.
That's not what you're talking about. Text justified. All right. The first claim is meant to solve is your only solvency for the Asia scenario as well as the last scenario about healthcare.
Yeah.
Correct? But
Yes.
Status of the off.
Escrow, social.
What are the net benefits to the advantage time?
Net benefits, the cyber thing, and the CIO, and the DX.
Yeah, no.
Still last.
Oh, I see. Well, yeah. Right. Yeah. For Taka?
Yeah.
The audit implementation of the revolution happens is IP ban.
Well, Rick? Yeah.
So IP is banned in the field, okay, because. Excuse me, what?
As a result.
As we go, okay. Yeah, that's what's on that. For the trademark told you, rather than permuting the uniqueness kind of plan, so the internal and company.
No, it's not. Our argument, yes, small businesses are high now. Our argument is you allow trademark holders to abuse their rights, i.e. via domain names, suing websites and other companies. That shuts down small businesses, which means you trigger for criminal penalties.
So if these small businesses are scammers that don't really contribute to the economy because it's all fraudulent money, like.
Yeah, our argument isn't that policing scammers is good or bad, rather. Our argument is that big trademark holders will abuse the plan's scope of mandate through its broad, extensive interpretation of what cyber means to sue smaller businesses.
Yeah, you
Like-
said broad interpretation, could you give me
Yeah,
like specific?
your own one is evidence talks about how to create certainty for large swaths of businesses to enforce their rights and police companies that they deem suspicious. We think that this opens trademark law widespread for abuse, so they'll shut down small businesses by litigating them, which puts them out of business.
Burning up. Oh, what's that? 851?
Did you say? Yeah. Actually. The advantage counterclaim. Okay. The necessity counterclaim. The trademark trolls the end. The horseshoe. One yes, cyber escalation, accidental threat, malware infiltration, threat, and nuclear systems that cause misattribution, which drives accessory pressure, nuclear miscalculation. That ends their evidence because it's that there's no attribution, which is our argument. The non-state actors and rogue state actors, cyber attacking, causing malware infiltration, just causes escalatory effect that never been any death support. Does not assume origin to link about malware infiltration. 1C2, yes, it is coherent. The stuff about terrorism suing and social security being key is wrong because the terrorists are taking our taking healthcare information and online information from emails and phishing attacks online, which brings social security so protections and not key 1 to 3, all causes counterfeiting drugs and cartels even are solved by other agencies, but our interlink is going unabated now, which causes extinction. They say that terrorists are incompetent or their evidence is wrong. It's not assumed to come born accurate evidence. It says that non-state actors will get help from state actors because they want to help non-state actors so they don't target them. Scams defense conceded, but I will answer the no impact card people do, the only warning here was that people do not use social media or fear it now. This is wrong because some people are already using social media and get it. As a source of news, they say no disease impact. Other countries don't matter because those countries still have healthcare systems. There aren't little things about entire collapse of the healthcare industry, which they have conceded. They say no pandemic impact wrong does not impair war. Even if it's not, even if the impair war is wrong because it does not assume assume incorporating into the genome becoming pathogenic and mutation, amplifying infectiousness, which causes neurological decay and increased vulnerability, which causes extinction. That's also into the incubation time because the disease will spread faster without the healthcare system. They say the South Asian war, the only war in the car was about why it's too expensive, but they can see the internal link that cyber spotting is funding those countries and militaries in the area which going nuclear. The Myanmar is the internal link. There's no warrant for them, and the ones who begin to answers. Advanced track. Firm developed its shields 2, firms can find any common planks we get new answers 3. It also links to that benefit of it links to small business. It links to small business because it still provides companies a quote unquote monopoly. They say and combining tax fighting harmonization is impossible. Apps and trademarks, like anything else, devalue trademarks overall. HCPA protection, trademark remedies, and jurisdiction under the HCPA is key round alternative. Trademark remedies not credit domain use switching roughly that goes through understanding HCPA requires trademark rights. Under company not substitute trademark rights involved in either unknown outside jurisdiction. Congress recognizing representation responsible to find years 18 months because of people harm to government. It was able to unanswered trademark rights points 1 and 3. It's wrong. Unique nature type fighting plays on human psychology bypasses the boundaries of the counterpoint to quo. They know that the type fighting happens now, but the point is not soon to consumers, which means awareness and education and funding cannot solve. Awareness fails is not a naked fit. For tangible actions, we would ultimately further soon. The domain spot the acknowledgement of the transition and tangible action remains inconsistent, precedent inconsistency within indirect financial impact, reaching the proactive domain registration and short publicity of the research consumer within the specification of cyber attack only post increasing. Very proactively economy. They say we answered the UDRP policy is incoherent. What is the policy? We get new answers when the block stuff does, but it does not solve without an app or links because it does not amend the HCPA. Now the mutual vulnerability plank is wrong. 1, prior to the act of mutual vulnerability to cyberspace. 2 does not solve Trump announcing the counterclaim means nothing. To cyberspace 3, no link to the turn. The plan is not to strengthen electrical grid or cyber defense broadly. The only defense cyber attacks forward. Cyber defense is never US invest in cybersecurity or adversaries will just develop new capabilities, but if they're right, cyber attacks outweigh puzzle species. They can see we solve every instance of nuclear attack in 6 mutual vulnerability is wrong. 10 or 22, mutual vulnerability and misinterpret national security community makes it great assumptions of no guarantee of great stability. This time causes 90% of rapidly US strategies that disagree about mutual vulnerability practices. The case community fundamental compensation relations to better off than community monetization for China. Negotiations to reward ratio the underground extending in terms of mutual vulnerability question rate unsettled 5 no guarantees and new tech deterrence countries and target 2. Kids are looking at acknowledge mutual vulnerability and extend the new development check me them their project on this priorities are thing to be different US China to be more far beyond nuclear 6 won't risk it having 0 chance of hacking our nuclear countries won't risk against sub-surrounding countries and they cannot grant second strike. The CIL plank is wrong. 1 does not solve any jurisdiction because the function advanced ACPA that's key to South Asian instability and because the domestic land act is key to litigate international people. Crossify that every other plank it also fails from the counterpoint. Domestic laws any law can be adjudicated in US courts. That'll be later no follow on parties can't agree to anything even bipartisan agreements which destroys the internal net benefit because of Trump. 1 instance of the counterpoint does not spill over to international norms in other instances and Congress can't agree to anything. That was about cap 1 for the plans on implementation. Gets rid of alternate like Bradley and effect uniqueness anything else choice. Prep no loss of modified prep choice financial class 2 the act of non-mutually exclusive parts of all to regulate capitalism. 3 prevents growth as good as possible. That's 1 evidence there dynamics research shortages and technology all overcome their wants 4 firm ability to overcome you can't overcome this 5 outweighs alternative cannot prevent short-term calculation or worse than any one AC scenario 6 all fails a mindset growth hardwired into it hardwired into us crazy the cognitive dissonance that people do not want to change their practices and all can't solve that be war anti-cap cause it COP24 Marxism exaggerating inventing crimes of the West denying the trusting socialist and socialist trust and analysis you can anti-cap movements disrupt economic system trade relations political lines and the practices model economic contraction 8% social responsibility the expansion of responsibility to various bargaining that trade profits that lead toward segmentation that colonial issues and the damage that stay multi-life property security technology environment movements thinking it turns out LA requesting human rights democracy rule of law peace sabotage military leads will go down fighting turn salty and college transition wars necessity campaign from the act to require the USFG find the only safeguarding against passage requires applying forces necessity that causes a direct application of the campaign choosing uncertainty only clearly resolved in circuit allows certainty that business is created otherwise industry collapses the campaign is not certain protection against cyber scars because it can be taken at any time there's no net benefit a litigation if they're right about the licensing agreements not solving the firms are tied up in litigation see no spillover 1 instance can't do it or some because their evidence says it already plays a significant role that's inserted below the actual the internal net benefit up to C is 4 firm do both 5 firm counterclaim and process counterclaims or division destroys product monopolizing solves the evidence override to net benefits. 3 March 12 day 1 firm rejected unique counterclaims and distort the literature and destroy after round 2 firm to vote 3 firm to the counterclaim 3 4 links still links to the economy because they upset the stability during the 90-day tariff repealed and there's a recession now, and that was above the one asphalt controls privatizing non-use and determining bad faith villages now to the internally small businesses are key records of stock providing tax LPs. Before this, small businesses the large funds committed 43%. Unlike small businesses vulnerability and the recent business environment aligned with children company economy almost stability. Teaching ransomware malware low cost of that kind of trust. Medium and cost of recovery revenue reputation comes to always speeding. Having new retention comes to and show identity that's not for reason leads to recover them ransomware higher limit and exorbitant payments. Operation leads to real loss of there's no small business legally get rid of the scammers who make the fraudulent money that contributes to the economy. The DA0 Morales can see that vigorous enforcement is inevitable because of the internal link, and it also can see that the strategy combat bullying. There's no internal link. Price says that small owners will use enforcement to extract from large firms, but Reed says that the small firms will also be targeted if they're right. Price says the large owners will also extract the resources, and it can see that COVID 08 and recessions, natural process of economic growth. Horse trade, firm do both, firm do the kind of, but at least in that benefit still results in the same trade-off. Action by one certainty ski cross back above, the counterpoint does not send a signal of amending the ACPA. It just looks like another circuit, but cross right process counterpoint is bad one. And the horse trading is wrong, and it's not unique and no impact. Watching 114, for instance, the lower enforcement approach with the extension makes estimate the version from the central base policy. I think one opposite legitimate discrimination, why we could use online technology, another one monopoly based on market. But the interest of the one around determining monopoly and all monopoly leading to the power companies responders voted to choice research classifies and classic body of employees. Plus, they take out that offense, straight to go to research classes to call their offense. 2 no link chunk music modernization act and Obama's AIA triggered off 3 no link the plan to drop the bucket. 4 no internal link lobbying Trump's personal purely personal big tech focus on tariff far outs. 1 tech big tech we're gonna come to get the call James on Luna open AI initially holding it's gonna go found areas to typically influence good elections going making personal interest lobby attacks making stabilization working on same you see on market load on direct appeal approach to the facts of obscure the advocacy groups around the world we go between Trump and may avoid resentment Instagram in favor tech one support market at support for link to independent with the big tech will love the plan tax funds causing unnecessary trade-offs. Now there's no what? No impact to democracy is resilient. There was 19 versus way to democracy now compared to democracy moving with prospects.
8 minutes.
Number.
I think it's 10.
Yeah. Okay.
Alright, good for cross. So I want to start on the advantage plan, the argument about awareness. Who says that there's no consistent acknowledgement and registration now? How does the app resolve that problem with registration?
Yeah, the thesis of the app is that there's a certain split over registration. Re-registration is not included under registration. The plan would reinterpret registration to include re-registration.
So owners can re-register.
Yeah, so like when you re-register your trademark 10 years down the line, in the status quo, once you re-register it, the person who registered 10 years before you, even if that registration was wrong, you are now considered the scientist one. Like you
Okay, yeah,
only
that
the
makes sense. Okay, cool, great. Trademarks, key to harmonization, you were talking about generic.com names, where are those key to solvency?
Well, the harmonization is just the circuit split. There's no like external harmonization. It's just harmonizing trade law.
Okay, great. Let's go to case proper, non-state rogue actors and state assisted from Myanmar. So when cyber squatting shut down, why would they not pursue a different route?
Well, so our 1NC evidence or our 1AC evidence says that terrorist operations are using cybercrime like phishing attacks to
Cyber crimes like phishing, if they're intent on launching a nuclear weapon.
No. Our argument is
what gives them?
There's a distinction. Non-state actors versus Southeast Asians. Those are separate. Which one do you
What motivates those actors
Which
to give
one?
up?
Non-state or Southeast Asian?
Non-state. What motivates these people to give up post plan?
Well, they don't have the methods to. They cannot infiltrate malware systems and nuclear systems.
So trillions of dollars in cartels and trafficking. How does the plan resolve those?
Well, that's not our internal link. Our internal link is about when you cyber squat these like cyber squat people working in the DoD.
Your impact cards about NC3 vulnerabilities.
Yes. Okay, so
how do websites get to an attack?
If you would let me explain, I'm explaining that internally. So when people working in the DoD click on these fraudulent links, it allows the terrorists to take their information and access those nuclear weapons.
So people on the DoD are going to eBay and terrorists.
No, okay, so like, yeah, our evidence is very specific on this, so like. They misperceive the email names that are in the, like the links that are in the email, they think it's from like the DOS or the DOE, click on those links, but it's not actually the DOE, it takes them to a shitty ass website. And when they click on that website,
Okay.
that website steals
Oh,
all the
that's fine.
login information,
Yeah.
which you have conceded that.
That's fine, thank you. So how does a trademark owner tell if an email in the DoD is meant to be taken down?
Well, that would happen, it's like, it's a proactive approach, so the trademark, the cyber squatter would not be able to register that domain.
So
Like,
it's
they
not,
would be able to register. they would
so
not be able to-
cyber terrorists restricting like
It
registering
would not-
US.com is what leads to terrorism in Myanmar, that's.
Well, our evidence says that in-rem jurisdiction is uniquely solvent for that because it allows the US owners to litigate those people in Southeast Asia.
Okay, great. Cafe, what war does the alt cause?
Yeah, the COPE evidence says it causes interstate wars, based on economic policies, alliances, or. Alright. You, yeah. Are you? Yeah, it must be like six schools. Most of them do. Alright, I got it for you. So, good. So I'm trying to switch to the emphasis. I know of freshman. You do it over the summer too. Yeah, I'm gonna try to cite it. If you were transferred to Georgetown. Is that where? Transfer to Georgetown? Yeah. No, it's doable. Like. Are you interested? Are you also thinking? No, I'm a junior, but I'm thinking of maybe apply. Of course. You apply though, like that's they talk to people, like whoever that is. There for that time, that's. They like he had a lot of story. Really? I wouldn't say a lot of story, but yes, I feel like they like I was told they had like a separate person that we told them we have. I don't know how true that is, but that's what we think. Right? Well, that's good. Yeah, feel free to reach out. Did you talk about? Did you consider it? I did, yeah. I was like, I feel like yeah, it was not good. And it kind of blew up, so yeah. So what are you studying for? I'm doing international. So international. Is that like IR or? I mean, it's kind of like this, like there's
Lots of stuff I was gonna say too.
country like financial flow and stuff like that.
A lot of new material in front now.
Yeah. This I have like a national trade professor and he's having a field day. Everybody's so fun to be in their class right now.
Oh, relevant to that.
Yeah, it's very. It's the captain. Then we're straight this out. Then advantage.
Wait, sorry, half or straight than one?
Advantage.
Yes.
Yeah. So. But leadership under interest rates all existential, one climate war pollution and biodiversity collapse, competitive linear threshold, second war breeds intestinal filters, and that guarantees escalation and super cause of global war, third disease arises from obscure health systems and natural relations turns the case, fourth future tech innovation on chemical ions and cyber weapons process cascading, system failure culminating in extinction turns the case, that's the turbo evidence of 2C1 is a framework, I'll do that. counter way, the applicant swings to the plans to get philosophical investments in capitalism and a solvent alternative, one responsibility, they choose yes. Ideological leaning intention to defend them, anything else endorsed belief to research, and leaving the only valid debate. Second, arbitrary is their answer, moves all but 8 seconds to the one sheet, unfruitfully shifting the focus of the debate. Now third, pick and choose, it's root industrial capitalism, expansion of center, informational capitalism, is like 70 expensive commercial self-making one scholarship, and I love their conservative, one part of the covering expansion, the opportunity markets, others interesting trademarks focus on expansion that relation to value capitalism and family patents, should be understood as discovery that was our industrial capitalism out of the industry number like supporting protagonist, isolating IP from the underlying social relations designs the intellectual comments to the morality fetishes and draws, 96 items of capitalist production is mental, life conciliated virtual economics, analyze IP and whether social race and other seven going to collective governance by fetishism. Now there's no company support of the no option to get away the gap and that we only get caps links and have links to plans, 5 structural analysis only valuing philosophical investments allows debates over broad systems of values, which is more educational than hamstrung. Politics is at 6.5 to topics of limited trademark access. Our infinite with zero built-in, the zero built-in negatively speaking for massive breaking etc. Links are key to keep us in the game. They're also unfair, interesting throughout the word phrases and the app of IP means to enforce all forms of evidence that has the app violates mining to expose the topics to tiny apps that don't even change the status quo. And in background, now the next argument is the perm non-mutually exclusive parts that severance strengthening to make stronger the mere works noted that means it can expand IP one instance while scrapping and all other because they need to pull IP protection as a whole. And second, it's incoherent, all rejects IP wholesale, so the links prove mutual exclusivity, and they don't get to separate philosophical investment. Third, it's fully intrinsic, adding textual specifications and a functional carve out for the plan. This specified in neither the plan nor the all that's voted for deleting all net ground. Now, they say next they say growth good. The card has no quals, it's from medium, which and it's just asserting things without being scientific. You prefer the evidence from the 1 and C, but capitalism is unsustainable when all profitability Robert Swiney. And local characters of rappers, partially structuring economy, even reacting to on bringing up the antibiotics of probably also what is social community and nature of regulation. No originally to the sense for rated profit fall strong one report after confirmed declining profit and capital experience ever credit the resolution bar by maybe financial governance speculation and but these are unsustainable. Mark at unsustainable. Now next is perm do both. It's nonsense. One is mutually exclusive. The alt abolition IP sovereign. Any reasonable definition of direct infection should is mandatory color 32 should shall make compulsory express options as you can do tricks not really by compulsion here existence by these philosophically and materially the all intersection neoliberalism asserting the compatibility no property against them with a larger angle of considered led by capitalist investors in cultural economics and real scale property is essential to practice the quality either no property against which also something all social interactions in the market environment helps determine cultural individual responsible and therefore to the market of course the dependence rely on the property culture side understanding the market communication the market only yes is given the prices of the property software non-stock commerce the bridging facility auto protection body change financial advertising taxation making economic possible and profitable. Second links are decides each one lowest purpose solving third framework if they win that their philosophical investments are tied to the plan that they can be sub regardless of material capital compatibility. Now I'll do the links here. They drop one corporatization IP expansion funnels billions into the pockets of capitalist overlords that structurally shuns proletariat innovation and creativity. Second, specification the act of reaching naturalized the expansion of corporate ownership into every facet of our lives from training the public imagination and uncertainty for radical alternatives. Now they say the gap outweighs the alt, so also by removing the need for non-stock to make a profit. Now they say alt fails, alt do the alt here. It unites global crunching against capitalism, BLM strikes content international market instability and produce widespread anti-capitalist sentiment. The alt provides an organizational framework and ideological direction for revolutionaries to take over enter capitalism at heart of the scenes. That's Peterson. They say no mindset that you didn't read a card on it and just asserted things. So prefer the drop Peterson evidence, which says huge swaths of people think that socialism is good and capitalism is undesirable. Features universal universalism anarchy. 20 trusting capitalism strength is the local population capitalism more complicated or more distributed little difference among conservative beliefs universal. Secondly, also solving both people who aren't currently anti-capitalist. Now they say it causes war, no transition wars when the alt incorporates the very people that have the potential to foster the revolution. Secondly, no impact cards zero since they go nuclear. Capitalist extinction outweighs their transition wars are inevitable to keep capitalist power shifting the balance of power only the alt also try or die as server. The alt isn't a dictatorship, but also concede the impact defense on the trolls set. That means decline doesn't cause war. Burroughs is our argument because the growth inevitably results in war, ensuring that it's unsustainable and causes a war chest. Now we go to the horse trading this time. Condo, we did one flexible counter plans are key, our protection levels, so parking lots and passive testing. Last time we had best offense to the 2AC first one speech, bench, the big plan, second logic, condo ban is an unpredictable, non-resolutional rule. But the natural nexus status quo, which is always made on a logical option. Arbitrary rules are worth a note with a line dash to unilaterally redraw the bounds of every debate, displacing substance, third innovation, fallback shots, and third view arts, turning research work, info processing, hard one, C, force 2AC, which is the best answer, following critical thinking, defense 1, TMU, adding more African speaks value, until there's strategic liabilities, 2, skew inevitable, T just has to be highlighting framework case, reject this, but one definition. There's not two force firm process compounds that will be spline third can solve flex and 2C dictates the block and the fourth refinement finds the teams to find a needle in case second when you see that beach generics and research more straight terms. 5 this between compounds of either often 6 logical forces the judge to vote for what worse than the status quo now can see the impact defense stopping for the advantage. They can't solve their internal link. So the army awareness is key to stopping phishing and compliance with the CISA. The plan doesn't spread that awareness. That is because not all fake emails or scams are protectable by trademark law. Because the plan doesn't doesn't make the system more widespread. No card says phishing would undermine the entire military system, or that it would be bad enough and that it causes user lose logic. They don't solve either. Phishing sites can use short URLs like Bitly to make people think that they're still legit, but there's no impact. States don't have motive, and if they did have, it would be the secret and avoid escalation. Because they don't have the capabilities. No one ever died. No one wants to engage in espionage. There's no. Actually, I'm going to skip that part. Now, note and the terrorism stuff doesn't make sense. The trademark can solve all ID theft. Expanding protection on domain doesn't restrict access to terrorists to IDs. Things like stealing in public or going through dumpsters ensures that people get access to credit card numbers. Anyway, so many all causes anyway. Terrorists get funding for counterfeits, drugs, trafficking, and cartels, which ensures that the impact is inevitable. They just assert that other agencies are cracking down, but that's not true because those are located in literally other countries. Plus, their evidence says agencies are ineffective right now. Regardless, terrorists don't cause extinction. They're incompetent and can't organize the operation for large scale harm. Even if states can fund them, that's irrelevant because they can't organize effectively. Plus, China doesn't want anyone to first strike them, so they won't actually fund them. That's just an assertion from the 2AC. Now, scams, there's no internal link. Even it's about Twitter collapsing, not the world. I'm pretty sure the 2AC didn't extend it. There's no HO word. Geography makes invasions impossible. It makes new sufficiently deter economic independence, ensure stability, and international institutions being cooler heads prevail. That's the green evidence preferred. Our extensive litany of historical and political factors that check theirs. It's just fear mongering news articles and total nonsense, especially when the country that their evidence cites is Myanmar, which is obviously not nuclear, zero chance that draws in any nuclear power. If they don't solve scammers, will just shift to the 195 other non-US countries and exploit those populations. That also applies to every other scenario about scammers and means that I'm good for process. Well, it results in any problems.
Okay, how do we do that? So we just ban IPs and all of them. Like what other actions does
The alternative is an increase in the scope and intensity of improvements we think.
Okay, so does the alternative require like any like government taxing like X sector, like taxing in big industries?
We think that could be a result, but not immediately. Or we think the all would result in that because it would end capitalism. So yeah, it would get rid of big corporations.
Okay, how do we get rid of big corporations? It's a tax.
Well, the alt would have anti-capitalist movements to overthrow the government, which and then they would implement.
Okay, how do the anti-capitalist rhetoric or how do the anti-capitalist movements overthrow?
We think that they would certain guerrilla tactics and they would also increase in scope. There would be more people or far more people joining the alternative. We think
Okay,
these
yeah,
show.
if you want to talk about that, you're trying to ask the belief is universal. If the belief is universal, why can they not do it?
No, the belief is not like universal in the sense that, well, it's universal in the sense that people think that capitalism is failing them. They don't have the motivation for resolution.
Okay, why don't they have the motivation?
I mean, because
Like, what does it motivate like 5 years? It's too risky. Okay, post alt, what does it change about it? Too risky.
fiat said they revolt.
Okay, you fiat individual actors revolt.
Yeah.
Like, so you fiat saying employees.
I mean, we don't have to fiat like everyone, but we would fiat a
So
substantial.
you force people, like private actors to prove.
That is what the all fiat is.
rapid actor VR was on the two.
Yeah, well, neither was this and one.
It
No, it wasn't. How does the alternative solve future tech? Is it just like cook all tech?
I mean, it doesn't cook all tech, rather it removes the incentive to weaponize tech for profit.
Okay, why has tech not been weaponized? Like what type of tech?
I mean, we think it has been, in fact, all your scenarios are probably evidence of capitalism is failing in that a lot of these, I guess, cyber attacks are used for terrorists to get country
Sustainability,
to make economy.
sustainability, the law of profitability.
Yeah, so the Roberts evidence says that, there has been a tendency for the rate of profit to fall over time. It cites statistics that.
So why are people? How are we getting tech?
We think any innovation right now is unsustainable.
Okay, but how does, okay, sure, if the rate of profit falls, then why do companies have an incentive in the status quo to?
Well, because they're chasing profits.
Like, but if the rate of profitability
It
is
has fallen gradually over time, it's not gonna drop.
so your argument is that in the future, there will be no motivation.
No, we think that will cause, the tendency rate of profit to fall will cause literal, like, percent collapse, dead.
What are our stents? And your words, good talk.
It's the adventure plan. The trolls disband. And then the necessity plan. We're good?
Yeah.
We're good? What? Five. All right. Add the advantage that the top of the orders are. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Okay.
Notes these impact the certainly solves it. But one, they can't solve global pandemics, only domestic one, but zero is taken. Further, international bodies. Second, they're not access to the most. Neither pandemics are globally transmissible nor severely dangerous to IH. Your gender quote diseases. The user is contained. Let's quote. The advanced kind of plan to see the formation theories to reach and project the argument on the team. Anything else? Not sorry. Trademark trolls extend the unique standpoint falls money on offense. Because the impact defense, unique and controlling defense takes out position one. So the truth is that the reason we're having specific economic realignments. Okay, guys, necessity. Try or die. The truth basically drop the impact is not disease, but back contamination, magnitude, back contamination against life on Earth, returning more business constantly 80 pathogens. That's almost an existential contagion have bacteria and fungi that literally eat metal and plastics, disintegrating all infrastructure civilization that's yourself known you. But one of your ancestors block relies on 2C screw ups and developing the kind of so small as that pricing and independent decide that first case similarly. Trademark of standard product funny public and right. The large purchase names from them trademark law. The brand is incentive for producers to string for law. Give out products trademark law. Or the name for protection would encourage other legal stream. The player will false advertising degrades the epistemic comments of taking Hamlet 20. Given that suppose comparable to the advantage based on concentrated ingredients, craft pollution, disaster and experience, certain NDCA or MBA polybody or hundreds of scholars scale the question about the today's committee. Let's get dealing with the practical process and the risk communication. Current policy can by trust society marked by aversions for us and which take this insight more. It also require will to relies on fraud. They advance dies and that's the consequence. We will say lines sense the way of togetherness. 3C1 purpose legitimate because it has function one's grounded for net. But against race, those are the only way to produce offense on this topic terms. It's not only the four intrinsicness, the leading trimming offense, second term gaining. Taxation shall be added on particular functions to achieve words. Prevention can once be out of disaster to certain time function. By turning extremely words into tax 3, we award just to make valid policy based on function, not text growth. Or to education recommending function first. They make plan not competitive, which is unpredictable for arbitrariness. The rest which says you have to be sure. Debates over actions, deriving from resolution ground and ability to engage just like arbitrarily when I read on the position. Truth act ground since they also justify A to Z spectral linkability. Resolution is about action, spectrum to three. Each topic is the TL is an age enacting the United States Literature. Funds urge action policy and action to government meeting. Ways about whether something on the curve. 5. Actual topic their interpretation does not really function the rest of the affirmation partial resolution wording elements two of discourse-based advantages and topical plans the state should strengthen or neg all the terms of planning acting checks. If you choose the plan's words, it still bans the plan which solves nothing and so protect. Also fails because it looks like your goal. In terms of the function of terms defined by which supposed to be closely defined the only definition for true IPR. That's not starting is 1 AC some applicants scrutiny to the firm look at the plan and how it's vague, don't specify which other issues over. That's voting issue for fairness. 2 certainty 0, it's clear signal for stability. It's regulated corporate TIP, so not an outline break from existing practices to sell it. It's not unique. IP is constantly evolving, including doctrinal changes that tell it. No impact or evidence. It's a certainty outcome, not process. Functions are the same, right? So worth how we want. Under use second true to access space about sleep, terror regime, technically called a central stream negotiation plan on certain outcomes. Finally, allows prison parties to time and exit negotiation jobs. Have allows the mechanism holding fraud. But spend aware people present inflexibility with tolerance. Yes, the whole message to know about it. So that was perceived as equivalent protection. 3C3A. Yes, the benefit litigation is backwards. Rights cause more of it. That's above. We solve it. The only exception is interest patents, ensuring a clear blind line. The straight term certainty. This goes worse because holders don't know what exceptions there are, which creates more litigation. 3C3B, yes, over. It's certain doctrinal fiction currently get incorporated broader IP that's held. Incorporating SSD starts systemic change to law. Head 1. Correction authority also mentions the law for addressing exceptions to the firm. But SSD will probably issues taken into account. But proposing some broader systemic shortcomings. 3C3B, afterwards involved in that. It's not disease, but Mars and contamination causes space wars, source keep ranking fully from NASA. Run abuse. 3C4, people fail to come up ban the plan. Force narrow right country students. Consumer creating excuse right for trademarks. The applicant guarantee, right? So it's abolished. No, you want your answer block choice. Made out of 2C mistake. If you do the work for and exclude that part, it's still impossible. 1 exclusivity, the plan fiance running a coverage with the same amount of cost overriding requirements that die credibility. The firm gets 17 lazy, right exclusivity and necessary infringement. Next precedent that worse the firm gets a little permission guarantee and partial protection makes investor challenge fringe that's held. Second is overriding and just ruining new liability price rights cost over returns at precludes adoption that's held. 3 displacement that's revenue. Alternatives for short structure against the door because I believe our even with a bit of short address on this another request for reform country report choice book accounts of the case point of revenue disposing or reduced revenue source prevention theories which have similar ills due to counterpart severs that voted for fairness. They drop the bank language swap IPR exclusive country by extension IPR or exclusive meaning the IPR pursuit holder. The opening parent of the engaging court shall exclusive for element. But all the only man rights permanent 9 for 4 years. You can report you can put it relish record analysis. Another privilege class, a recommending with defensively less burden existing rights, subject to conditions that rights to use destiny rather than may affirmatively leave for 2.8 that's the grants of contingent privilege on the right of 1. The privilege for this contingent privilege on square must be discouraged conflict caused by the short feature. Before one limits is not account when it's an after request nil infinite no it's after that's the most unique snag after code of score and just has to try that against inherent advantages like first off sheet and prep that outweighs for problems. A use of thought with massive serious making their grounds for many research as a stable generics ground. Their tradition of stored non-durable and glass. At least any net ground from having to add a clock to innovation and certainty kills free generous. It's already not there. This road. Some work will give 1,000 court cases, many unfair doctrines down. No offense have been ample. Rights key 1. The entire basis of certainty is exclusivity. 266 after out with the same nation code, process by ground. Second arbitrariness, there's no way to exclude this kind of not also excluding uniqueness or agent to generate a DA, information nebulous, and last right across substance 3 logic competes and not cost theory. Artificially links the after testing across the substance 4 no offense right key 1 solved. And also we meet, we are not a process kind of we're remaining out of rights.
Crap. The necessity counter plan. And. The worksheet. Scenarios for extended Southeast Asian impact taxes that American reduce corruption and laws for Southeast Asia, cause massive stability that leads to access to world jobs, regional nuclear power that's an improvement in Jakarta, that terrorism because of the red death and sexual and specific to counter and terrorist groups in Southeast Asia that only read specific evidence to that is specific to US scams and the no way Asia percent part doesn't apply because it's not specific to our scenario about escalating and increase in nuclear power science, China being drawn in, that makes it nuclear, but it's not about Myanmar, and no, it's only about cost, which we definitely saw, but which is definitely not about our internal link, and the only we saw because we saw for the cause that are causing it, and only we recent evidence that this is external they incorporated you know about the genetic which is the addition of amyloid friction was not increasing vulnerability. They partly say that there's all about that the solvents even though because they only got this health for the labs which is the unique internal link, and no obviously there's alternative vaccine and everything in the part only take into account vaccine implementation, which well it's all because of the healthcare system there's some blocks that is also insulated from the definitely insulated from the campaign because first of the time frame which the healthcare plus much faster than that because it's already on the fringe now, but the draft takes too long, and obviously it is not the cross two draft because it takes it before next attack. In a way, the plan of the station gets the middle of our turn, at least with the unity, let's provide materials, obviously, that's fairness, there can be one we only have to prevent it from to start building perfection and able to humanity mixed game, we're trying to overturn stuff, not only start represent that way, and then equally realize that fairness is so much the verb, the kind you say, philosophical, but they can't, they can still be ideologically, as long as they also weigh our consequences, but not arbitrary, and weigh the consequences and student, and weigh the consequences is intuitive and links back, there's a millions of philosophical justification, get some infinite cases, and choose not rooted in, pick and choose and not reading caps and one of the big six. There's no impact in here anyway. So we have this that is wrong because no war. You cannot win the entire utility plan with all also weighing you consequences of it. Yes, philosophical evidence, thought systems and value definitely solved because they still can weigh philosophical evidence as long as the consequences to it. And trigger as our advantage still get property links, so also the winding and topic already floated on unique case of the verb do the app the app and not just the verb said that link defense proves it's good in the app and all offense is the net benefit. He wants to tax this shit out of a bunch of scenarios. Obviously that was doing both would obviously solve that because it's the preferred double line means it's a drop in the bucket and they say about bolstering IP at all agrees mutually exclusivity, but it's only one instance. That's a sustainability tax is good one. Research dependency, it's also water's not for medium to lying. Economic value based on the knowledge we can grow so you do become executive allows us to do more with less, and then studies making big survive because they ignore future tech reviews and guarantees intelligence improvement and aquaculture we do not usually decline issue by period innovation project growth and capital mitigation fund. We promise with the negative right 13 law for those burdens and cannot be law for the future available in the past and nothing in the future as we are right to all kind of virtues not succeeded for having the law cannot be substantiated. Next is link that turn the aftermath of security rights in line with socialism and the villains about corporation and profit. But you don't say how exactly the plan is good. The plan is good for small businesses. That was on the choice was conceded. Next is all that's cause war trade undermine good trade in alliances. It goes to stop that extinction. Yes, there obviously draws their powers plus money to get up here at work. Individual mindset voters in the voter laws next to be out of every day possible to class education. That's why they re-explain it as they just have to really know that everything's going to be solved. And journalists not even so it doesn't insulate that argument that's specific to socialist regime. It causes travel from university service and movement to such events for the shit of the person the rest of the versus friendship and the reverse of the sunny from the returns from the room the pandemic the sound travel is by trying to the populism is the national reaction and political polarization. Personally, presumption argument is just about trade law, not about trade law, but the no presumption argument because the other is the link and the other insurance operating with vegetation. And we also definitely saw the second thing we conceded the social media defense from the From the one see, so that's all. Since the only aspects of the amendment of the ACP result, first to provide consistent interpretation and satisfying basic data, he to provide business and determinative with certainty and work will be successful for state grades. From the indictment of the time plan, both the process and the outcome conceded, that the circumstance describing the uncertainty now the time plan, launch another circumstance because it's arbitrary fix and choose the one to take the plans that need to state or emergency wait, as talking means that people don't know when the government will take the rights to from litigating because of high cost now, not only is long, even the state system as a whole evolves, that's from the right, 30 months implemented, that's having topography, it doesn't solve, they still know, the kind of like creating new potential from the South Korea right to not work, there are 50 categories now, but resolve that. They don't specific to ACB or landmark. Only our evidence is the amendment proves certainty, straight up certainty, as they are below. Make language self term 20. Make language of the ACB for district of the burning which is make notes actually validity. So over mishandled litigation argument rights are worse now because they are predictable and companies more and other areas of the governments and every means there's no way they can start to the act, bring more on to the innovation because they're so basically can't solve the internal evidence they can see the situation for you. If they invested in already limited ideas for existing law proof the entire it's over in the past they were just or it's some one of the others right you will know necessity to place a role limiting idea under existing property law. Back to the presumption argument, I didn't make this clear, but it's just about trademark law, like not solving and that it doesn't say tort litigation can solve that or makes it better. It's not a presumption argument at all. Obviously, the plan is implemented and beyond it, which create and it will happen, and that's guaranteed because you have any trouble. Okay,
Yeah, 5, 4.
Sorry, I missed some things. What did you say? What were the first 2 subpoints on that?
Yeah, first was that the litigation stuff that companies won't just hand over to IP and like they litigate every single time. 2, the trademarks are key to the innovation that the parts talk about, which means you can't solve the internal benefit. And then the over argument from the 2.
the then the common plan. And then.
The purpose of the competition, reject the argument not to note the many new cross applications because those would be new in the 2 year argument counterpart. It's tried out with a negative, or they only made arguments for why we don't solve the net benefit, but you know that extinction is inevitable in the world of gas, so you can only vote negative. We all have different internal links to extinction, but the counterpoint is the only option that gives humanity a chance to survive another day. Back contamination outweighs on sheer magnitude. The one air conceded the impact and had no ink on it. Fungi and bacteria from space will eat away all metals, guaranteeing extinction. That outweighs the case because it's impossible to combat cyber squatting if all computers are rotten and eaten away. That's the Joseph evidence of, in case the Trigger tries to say the plan is not solved. This is about bacteria literally eating things alive, not disease. Now, there's an independent false advertising dissent which was dropped. The one-year response about durable fiat is non-responsive since it's a dissent. It's a dissent to trademark law. One Simon and the one Hamlet say that trademark law is itself corrupt and causes false domain names that erode the epistemic commons, unleashing AI, climate change, crime, and malware and everywhere because identifying and to everyone because identifying all commerce becomes impossible. That turns the certainty deficit because trademark owners can no longer know at all what websites are legit or not, fueling terror that also ensures that terrorists are continuing to exploit the people in the world of the app, which means that they don't solve. There are two implications. One is presumption, turns case and presumption was explicitly flagged in the webinar, which takes out the entire case. Second, it turns certainty. It means that it's impossible to identify what marks there are turning the case, even if the one is right that it's about a generic link to trademarks. It's a reason trademarks are worse compared to torts and turns the case. It's a linear dissent and proof that they can't solve the case, but the counterplan does rejected new answers. The Tracy dropped the impact and only answer disease for back contamination, which is nowhere close to sufficient because it's entirely separate. Now the counterplan solved the case and implements the plan except saying that exceptions to exclusive rights can occur when the government deems it necessary. That spills over to broader use of the necessity doctrine, for example, to stop stopping space agencies from going too far because the threat of losing their FP during a back contamination crisis. Now the next thing is the certainty deficit. The winner did not get beyond the tagline. You deserve a gold medal if you could flow the warrant. So hold the line and strike me to our arguments, but I'll answer the warrants. In the first process, it's wrong. They dropped 193. Their evidence is about outcome, not process. For ammunition, we're not your generic results in the plan. Process campaign. We're a pig out of rights in favor of a privilege. That might be a right. That certainty is key, but they have no comparison between a certain privilege and a certain right. Plus, there's simply no impact because they don't have any scenarios about business investment. All they have to do is stop cyber attacks, which the counterplan still does. Now, pick and choose is a negative argument. They dropped the one-hour contextualization of the counterplan that is only applied in pathogens. The quote is worse. One-hour led and says that rights owners are fiercely litigating over what exceptions to rights there are. So there's no uniqueness for it anyway because the plan doesn't solve. But a whole area of our law, a whole area of law is our argument. We signal to investors that the only exception is a dangerous space pathogen. So they are assured that in every other instance, their rights will hold, solving the impacts, including in cyber. Now, litigation is often, since companies are disputing it out as for above hours, no terminal impact to that, or no investment scenario in the 1EC means that a massive net benefit outweighs. They haven't explained in the 1AR why to keep things like disease or stopping terrorists from attacking. Now, necessity solved now is new and unflowable, but wrong. But says current IP regimes are insufficient because of their inflexibility, causing more uncertainty because infringement is impossible. Hours, the net benefit is coming now and it's massive. So it's still try or die. False advertising is also unique to the plan. Now they say trademarks not key. The counterplan spills over to broader use of the necessity doctrine in IP, which allows for taking away patents from NASA if they go too far in space exploration. We didn't concede that necessity is already being implemented. The Tracy was unclear, but no, Len says it's not being implemented right now. The re-highlight also cites an article from 04 saying that it may be implemented, not that it is already being implemented, and Len is newer and says that it's too inflexible right now for it to be implemented anyway. The card they read at the bottom was not sent out, so you cannot vote on it. Now, I think that's it for the counterplan. It's not thumped either because the counterplan injects the necessity doctrine, which is sufficient to solve. Any other argument was unclear in the 1AR because they were reading straight off the computer. Now the case. There's no Asia war geography makes invasion impossible, and dropped economic interdependence ensures stability because Asian countries all have to keep trading with each other, which prevents them from escalating with each other. That's the green evidence. Drop the you should prefer it. Our cites is a litany of historical and political factors. Their evidence is just fear mongering, and they said the stereotypes about China, which is what the green evidence exactly applies to. It also applies to South Asia. Now disease. They simply conceded that burnout, the most lethal pandemics, aren't globally transmissible nor sufficiently dangerous to all ages and genetic pools. So the more deadlier a disease is, the easier it is to contain and the quicker it burns out. That's photo. I know the two-way C stuff something like incubation times, but the winner did not say it, so you cannot give them to it. Regardless, it's Sir Trump has gutted cooperation with international agencies, which ensures that disease spread is inevitable in other countries and inevitable against the US because of travel.
The plan causes more litigation because rights are disputing now, there's only a
The
risk.
plan causes more litigation because rights are unclear and uncertain. The legal regime is terrible right now, which is a conceded unique recycling one that takes out any weakness from the deficit.
I agree with that.
Conceding disease defense takes out a majority of their impact, which means a small risk of a certainty deficit outweighs because you know the plan solves scams in Southeast Asia, which cause extinction. Scams in America fuel corruption and undermine law enforcement across Southeast Asia that causes massive instability and leads to escalation and nuclear war. That's Dickinson, Proputnik, and John Wright evidence. Our evidence says that countries in Southeast Asia and China, all these countries are exacerbating cyber crimes against U.S. Citizens, and that cybercrime is fueling that cyber cybercrime is fueling countries like Myanmar, Japan, China, Russia, not Russia, is India and Pakistan, all of these Southeast Asian countries, which is eroding the rule of law and democracy. That spills over to escalation because those countries have that corruption are evidence that the corruption spills over to military officials, which destroys any checks of destroys all the economic checks and diplomatic checks because the leaders of those countries will be corrupt because because they're getting money from people who are scamming. Now that overcomes all the defense, which means that winning this argument means that triad the counterclaim cannot flip neck because we have a large impact and we have 100% solvency of the case. You know, in jurisdiction solves because the domestic ACPA allows the U.S. allows U.S. cyber squatter allows U.S. trademark holders to litigate these international cyber squatters. The disease defense going to it now. I'm flagging the 2NR warrants about disease being the more deadly a disease, it burns out quicker, which stops the spread of disease. I'm explicitly conceding this because it will take out the disease, it will take out the fungi and bacteria impact. And then the 2NR and that the 2NR goes for. This is not new because these are arguments from the 2NR that they answered for coming out of the 1AR. Now go to the necessity counterclaim now. Top level, we are conceding their impact defense, which zeroes the only impact in the 2NR and means that a trier die can only flip act. They first is that their impact has never been that space colonization there's the status quo Earth causes extinction or that there's inevitable extinction on Earth, which means that there's taking over space does not matter. Conceding the disease defense that which takes out the bacteria destroying infrastructure and computers. The 2NR says that diseases would die out way before it spreads, which means that it will not spread that won't spread to the people, which means that the plagues, the diseases, and the fungi this Woodward talks about coming from the aliens would wipe out before they ever reach the infrastructure. There want to see evidence says that the bacteria is destroying the Mars rovers and Mars technology. The reason it is destroying the Mars technology is because all of those technology is so close to the aliens, but if NASA transports those aliens to the US, the amount of time that it takes to transport them will obviously lead to bacterial will lead to a burnout of the bacteria, which means that it can never overcome it can never destroy the infrastructure of civilization. In the US there's also no snare for extinction because disease is the only thing which is taken out now. The false advertising stuff at the top, it's wrong. There's no reason why it's consumption argument or returns case. They have really good spin, but the card is atrocious. It's not what they say. Toward solved by quote barring deceptive names of registration end quote. The plan does that by clarifying re-registration. That was I'm not rehashing this out. MBA's explanation of the card is at inherency. We have literally said that status quo trademark allows malware and crimes. The first is evidence in the Captain Torberg cards that say that we solved these loopholes. Fiat definitely solved. It's durable, meaning trademark law is not an effective implementation because we affect the ACPA, which is the only trademark law that affects the plan. Prefer our certainty deficit before theirs because their spin is wrong. They have no carded evidence about certainty and about the outcome and the process in regards to the act. Now, certainty should frame your valid. The sole question is whether or not you think the counterclaim is more or less uncertain than the act, and whether or not that uncertainty matters. Go there now. The certainty arguments are wrong. First, top level, the act explicit amendment to the ACPA resolves the current circuit split to provide consistent interpretation because judges are arbitrarily deciding cases and arbitrarily choosing when or when not to apply the act's interpretations. That's key. Only resolving this provides businesses and the individual the certainty that enforcement will be successful. They conceded multiple warrants coming out of the 1AR that I repeated for them during 2NR craft that without certainty because the people will not go to the courts to actually try to litigate these people that litigate these cyber squatters because of the higher cost of litigating, which means that they have to litigate people in South Asia, but they don't have any they don't know whether or not that litigation will work. Now the counterclaim deters them from enforcing their trademark because they cannot because they don't have that certainty, which is that deficit is the term that impacts the terminal impact of this deficit. That's the path control we have they drop are brought in the counterclaim that says that the counterclaim looks like another circuit, but because it does not amend the ACPA, but it has de facto rulings that the courts would implement. They conceded that the state of emergency that when the government would be able to take these rights is so uncertain because no one knows what a state of emergency is. That's vague as shit, which means that companies are always going to be uncertain about when or when not they're not going to be taking the rights stuff and litigation stuff is above because after inherency that the act solves that litigation now. The internal net benefit stuff was definitely wrong. There are internal legal evidence. The no spill argument is definitely enough defense to this because they mishandled the litigation argument. Our argument is that when the USMG just takes people's company who takes their IP rights, they will obviously litigate and they will say that no, this is not actually a state of emergency, or they will exploit that vagueness, which means the counterclaim can never solve and the innovation never actualized.
Right. That paradox sense. Good. getting up.
It's live streaming on YouTube, but I'm not sure